Chris, first off, we'll start with obviously the Danny Brough disciplinary yesterday. 3-game ban, £500 fine. What's your thoughts on the RFL's actions first off?
Totally justified. I went with Danny and we both apologised. Danny was, very, very sincere in his apologies, and he's a very passionate bloke. He plays with his heart on his sleeve and all of that, and everyone is aware of what Danny Brough brings to the team. And what he said is just unacceptable. You can't say that to the officials. I think that's one thing that separates rugby league from all the other team sports in the country or in the world. Rugby league is a family game, and we base a lot of our stuff around that, and you can't talk to officials like that. So Danny acknowledged that. I acknowledge that. The RFL follow their procedures, and it's probably we probably got out of it as well as we expected. I thought the judiciary system was really fair. They took into account a couple of preceding incidents that affected Danny's frustration, but ultimately, Danny knows he can't say that to the officials.
Has he given any explanation as to why he did it?
Why he did it? Because Haraki ruffled his face, elbowed him in the face, and I think he was a little bit frustrated with the 12 penalties we'd conceded, and we were kind of in the arm wrestle with Salford. It's 6 points down, and we just, I don't know, we conceded a couple of dubious penalties, let's say. That led to Robert Louis kicking 2 penalties and just took them out of reach of us. So I could understand his frustration, and from a coaching point of view, and we explained that to the RFL, but rightly so, he got the 3-game ban because you can't speak to officials like that.
Are you disappointed with that sort of conduct from a senior member within your squad?
Of course, yeah, of course.
And what sort of headache does that bring you with Saints on coming up to have him not in the squad and available?
Well, we have to find a way of playing without him. We've done it before because he missed a couple because of his ankle. So one person's disappointment is another person's opportunity, and we brought Sam Wood into the squad. And whether we go with Sam or not, I'm not sure yet, but he's trained pretty well today. He's a young man that's been through our system for a while and is an absolute utility player for us, and someone I can trust, and just knows a few roles when you ask him to play, and whether he plays centre or whether he plays back row or whether he plays stand-off. So we've got a couple of decisions to make.
Obviously, Saints coming up, beaten by Wakefield on Sunday. Is that a positive thing or a negative thing, the fact that they might be a bit of a wounded beast as such coming into the game?
Look, Saints are a good team regardless. They started a bit slow against Wakefield and they nearly got back into it. I think that regardless of that result and that performance and that slightly slow start, then you have to respect the personnel, you have to respect their record at the minute. They're comfortably the best team in the competition, and they have threats all over the park. So I'm aware that they've suffered a couple of injuries, and James Roby's not in the squad, which is a positive for us. But we need to turn up ready to play. We need to start well, and we really need to focus on what we've tried to do in training, and we need to focus on generally. In the last game, for an hour to 65 minutes, we were right in the arm wrestle against a decent Salford side. So if we do all of that, then we're confident of a solid performance.
You mentioned a number of threats that they've got, one of them being Ben Barber in particular. How do you go about nullifying those sort of threats?
Well, you try and make him do things that he's not comfortable with. You try and turn the ball over on your terms, and Ben Barber, when he crosses the halfway line, he becomes alive, doesn't he? And he's a real offensive threat, and we all know how talented he is. And you try and, from our point of view, we just got to try and make him a little bit uncomfortable and make him do things that he's not comfortable with. So,
when you've got the ball in hand, where do you think you can challenge them?
Oh, look, we've shown a bit of fluency over the last few games. For me, it just starts defensively. We've made a couple of errors that unfortunately we've highlighted in practice, and we've practiced, and we're showing a lot more consistency in practice, but there's just one or two that are used to having maybe a playoff here and there, and unfortunately at this level, when you have a playoff here and there, then you get, you concede points. But I think if we can improve again defensively, offensively we have some good ball carriers, we have some quick outside backs, you know, in his senior, scored 3 tries in his last 2 games. So we're confident that if we can, you know, give some service to our edges, then we'll pose a threat.
Team news wise, how are you looking going into the game?
Well, obviously the Danny Brough one brings Sam Wood into contention, and then I'm just kind of figuring out who I go with in the middle. We've got a couple of clouds over a few people, but generally our props are you know, we've got a few of those available. So whether that's a Shannon Wakeman, a Colton Roach, or a Tyler Dickens that comes into contention, they're all named in the squad. I'll probably decide in the next 24 hours.
In terms of any of the longer term absentees, how close are they to coming back?
Probably a week closer than they were last week. You know, Mamo, Cudjoe, McGillivray particularly, Ferguson, Lawrence. Lawrence is probably the closest. Bruno, he's got the lower grade hamstring strain, and he'll probably be the first back. But we're just trying to focus on the fit boys at the minute, because they're the boys that are, you know, are the ones that can kind of generate a little bit of luck and a little bit of performance for us going forward.
In terms of the ones you've mentioned there, Lawrence in particular, how far off are we talking? Maybe
a week to 10 days. We'll assess him in the next few days, and Michael will probably be training soon, but we don't want to, because of the nature of the injury. You want to get some miles on the clock with regards to training. You don't want to just throw him into a game, although he's a senior player and his training age is pretty significant. We still want him to train, and we need him to train at least for a week before we can consider him in contention to play.
From a personal point for you, I think this will be your 5th game in charge. What have you learnt in terms of yourself and as a manager during that time? About a month now, I think it's been.
I've learned. I haven't really had time to think about that. You know, I've got a newborn son, and all my energy is invested into doing the best job I can for this club. No matter, you know, where we go, however we want to dress it up. The situation isn't really pretty, but I'm a big advocate of hard work pays off, and if we keep working hard enough, we'll get ourselves out of this trouble. So we'll keep doing that.
So you're still confident that, given the opportunity, you can turn things around here?
Sure, yeah. We've got enough good players. You know, we named 5 or 6 players there that eventually, when we get them back, they are, you know, as good as anything in the competition. And I think confidence is a significant thing. And once you get on a roll, momentum can build, and you string a few wins to back, you're right back in the competition. I've been in this sport a long time, and I've seen it firsthand. So, yeah, of course. How many games we got left?
Not sure how many is it now.
Yeah, we've got a few left, haven't we? So, you know, we're at the halfway stage of the regular season, just about. So, you know, we've got plenty of rugby league left in us, and we're confident that we will have a crack come the next few months.
In terms of a win against Saints, what can that do in terms of buoying confidence and going forward?
It's exactly what I said. It can instill some belief and confidence. Although I do sense over the last couple of weeks that the confidence has been building. Although the results, you know, after the Leeds draw, after the second half performance against Castleford, and for large parts of the Salford game, you know, there is a bit of belief. But we have to remember that we're playing a lot of young kids at the minute, and that takes a while. And I'm also aware of, you know, not emptying their tanks and not draining them too much, because it's a long season. So you know, I've got to find the balance somewhere, and if I can complement those youngsters with some senior players, the ones that I've mentioned, coming back, then I think we'll be all right.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Has part of the work, Chris, been on cutting down on those unforced errors, which
seemed
to really kill you last week?
Well, that last week was unacceptable. It was just unacceptable, wasn't it? I think we had 14 unforced errors, and we combine that with 12 penalties that James Child gave against us. That's 26 sets that we hand to Salford, and don't care who you are, if you do that, you're not going to win a game. So it's something that we're conscious of. You know, I'm a big advocate of playing rugby league how it should be, free and flowing, and on the front foot, and backing yourself and backing your ability. But at the same time, you just have to be more accountable with the ball. You know, we would stand up to play the ball and knock it on. You know, Seb lost it in contact, Ollie lost it in contact, and that for me is not necessarily a skill or an execution. That's just an attention to detail and a concentration thing. And if they consistently do it, then they just won't get picked.
Yeah. On the other side of it, obviously I can sense your frustration about some of those penalties, but have you spoken to the lads about the discipline side of things?
Yeah, there's a few things. There's a knock-on effect in terms of penalties, and it generally comes to the ruck and it comes to the play of the ball. If you're efficient in your tackle tech and you're efficient in the play of the ball, then you generally don't get penalised as much, and it's something that we're consciously working on. So if we can continue to work on it, hopefully that'll improve. Hopefully our discipline will improve too.
Yeah. And you talked about making a bright start and defensively being better and more solid. Is that the starting point, or do you have to work on all the lot?
As a head coach, you have to work on the lot. But for me, it doesn't matter what your game plan is if you defend soft. You have to come with intent. You have to understand your role in the team defensively. We've brought in a couple of new structures and some new calls and stuff like that, especially with Mark Andrews on board. He's big on that detail, so we've emphasised that in training. That has to be our priority, especially against a free-flowing St Helens team that have scored more tries than anybody else in the competition, I think. So like I say, if you defend properly, it gives you energy to attack, and then when you've got energy to attack, you can be clinical and you can express yourself a little bit more.
And Mark, you mentioned Mark there. What sort of impact has he had in the last couple of months?
He's been great. He really has. He's overlooked the performance department, the S&C staff, the medical, but he's also a really intelligent rugby league brain too. He's been around the sport a long time. He's worked under some good coaches, and he offers a different perspective. He offers a different point of view from me, and he's a good man to pick his brains.
Thanks.